I need to move?
All right, guys. Cool. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna have them introduce themselves. So if you could introduce yourself, what year you are, where you did your undergraduate, and then where your current assistantship is in, and then we'll go from there. So onward.
Hello. There we go. Okay. I'm Shonda Pascal. I'm a second year in the HESA program. I'm originally from Springfield, Massachusetts, and I did my Massachusetts. I did my undergrad at George Washington in DC.
Raise high.
There we go. And my assistantship is with the Office of Student Conduct, working with the Carolina Judicial Council.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jerome Lee. I'm a first year in the program from Decatur, Georgia. Nobody? What's supposed to say? Oh, I went to Georgia State University. My current GA is in residential learning initiatives in university housing.
Hi friends, my name is Kinsey Crane. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida, and I went to Florida State University. Thank you. It's fine. Only at the top, sorry. Sorry about it. I am from Florida State University, and I work in the Office of Undergraduate Research. I'll take this to myself. You can have that one. Hey. Nope. See? It says on. Okay. Wait, did that work now?
Yeah. I guess I just needed a minute to warm up. Well, hello everyone. My name is Tara Rabinowitz. I am originally from New Jersey, did my undergrad at Rutgers University. Nice to see some of y'all here this weekend. My current GA is in the Career Center, working with the students in the College of Arts and Sciences.
Alright, hey everybody, my name is Alex Thomas. I am from Severn, Maryland, just south of Baltimore. I went to George Mason University up in Northern Virginia. There we go, back, represent. Alright, and I work in University 101 programs. And I'm a first year. Yeah.
Oh, me too. I forgot to say that. Sorry, guys.
Here.
Hi everyone, I'm Christine Kovac. I'm also a first year. I'm from Chesapeake, Virginia.
Yeah.
I also went to Florida State University, and my current GA is in the Office of Student Government, working specifically with the executive offices.
Oh, so the so if y'all could just share kind of how you did obtain your assistantship, whether it was through GARP or not through GARP, and then kind of just walk them through your basic storyline. I feel like that'll give them some context of what we're looking at, and then we can open it up for questions.
So I went through GARP 2 years ago, so GARP 2012. Also, I had 5 interviews my first day and 3 callbacks, and I ended up getting my offer through GARP, but I actually got 2 offers, which was a hard situation to go through, but I ended up definitely making the right decision for myself, but I took some time. I got the offer I did not take first, and we chatted for a second, and I said I really appreciate the opportunity I had with you. I would like to hold my assistantship offer with you. And then a little while later, I heard back from the conduct office. And I wouldn't normally suggest this, but I don't suggest people do things the way I do, but I immediately said, "Hi, Elisa Liggett, it's nice to speak with you." And she said, "We'd like to offer you." And I said, "Okay, good, well, I'll see you in August." Don't really need to know much more. And she was like, "Are you serious?" And I was like, "Yeah, very much." But I would just caution you all to take some time and think it through a little bit more than I did. Thankfully it worked out, but going with that impulse, sometimes you want to take it back, think it, and look at everything you kind of have in front of you if you do get multiple offers, because it can get a little tricky when you have to navigate through the 2 or 3 if you're cool.
Well, my story is very different. I came to GARP, I had 2 interviews, one with the Student Success Center, and I know I nailed it. It was like the perfect interview. I didn't get a call back. The other one was with housing, and I got a second round, and then I waited and the phone never rang. So It was probably around the end of March before I got a random phone call from like a 803 number, and I'm like, who is this? So I answered the phone like, what? And they were like, we'd like to offer you a position with residential learning initiatives. And I was like, what is that? So she explained it to me, and I was like, well, let me get a day to think about it, because I didn't want to seem too eager. I didn't really have any options, though. I took it, and I actually really grew to appreciate the position. I learned a lot, and I gained great experiences. So it's definitely not what I wanted or expected, but it was definitely something that I really enjoyed doing. Learned a lot from.
So, like for Jerome, I went through GARP, and Monday came, and I sat by the phone, and nobody called. And so for me, South Carolina was my last interview weekend. I had been to 2 weekends previously, and after GARP, I was sold. Part of it was because I think, and I've heard some similar stories from y'all, I met a lot of people on kind of like the HESA circuit, like going from interview weekend to interview weekend. And for me, the cohort experience is really important. And so when I ended up here and started networking with potential cohort mates here, and they were excited about this program, I got excited because I knew I wanted to be around impressive people, people who were going to make me work hard, people like Tim, who looks at all my papers before I submit them. So I was like, I want to be with that kid, it's going to be great. So I went to 2 other weekends, I got offers from those schools, and I held them. And so Monday came, didn't get any calls, and I was like, okay, so I know I want South Carolina, how am I going to make this happen? I was like, okay, well at GARP, everybody's talking about this Jenny Bloom woman, like she walks on water, so I'm just going to try it. So I emailed her, I'm like, hey, can we chat? And so we set up an interview, and this is just kind of a fun fact. The day I was supposed to talk to her, my boyfriend woke up and was like, hey, want to go to SeaWorld? I'm like, yeah, but I gotta talk to this Jenny woman, so we can't. So we go to the Shamu show, it's 11:45, I was supposed to talk to her at noon, so we sneak out so I could talk to her. Anyways, so I talked to her, and she was super supportive. I was like, Jenny, I'm at SeaWorld, I want to go to your school. So she was like, hang in there, second round interviews are gonna come around, so if you want to be here, make it happen. So I would say probably middle of March, Stephanie Suarez sent around other offices that were hiring. And my concern was that these are going to be bottom of the barrel internships, and they're going to be I don't know, grave digging. It was fine. So I was so excited because when the packet came, they were great. They were cool offices, study abroad, capstone scholars, Office of Undergraduate Research. I was like, okay. So I dove back in, wrote more cover letters, set up new interviews. I had my first interview with the Office of Undergraduate Research on March 24th, and I loved it. I had a great conversation with them. It felt good. It felt right. And they offered to me on Thursday. I did what Shonda did. I asked 2 questions. I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm yours. Let's do this. I was so excited. So I accepted on March 28th. The piece of it, yeah. So I know that at this point, you guys are probably exhausted. But for me, I knew this was the program I wanted, and so I held those other 2 assistantships at other schools. I ended up letting them go because I knew this is where I wanted to be. So if you're in that position, I hope that you can find someone like Jenny or a current student that you can turn to, because there are options. If you want to be here, you can absolutely make it happen. Thank you.
Okay, so like our last 2, I did not get my assistantship through GARP either. I actually showed up to GARP weekend, met my GARP host, and she told me all about her awesome assistantship in the Career Center, and I was like, you really should have read the rest of that description instead of just reading the words Career Center, because that sounds horribly boring. But she seems to have a lot of fun. So I was kind of pissed at myself at that point, and then the next day I met the other GA in the Career Center for breakfast, and I was like, okay, now I'm really mad at myself, because they're both awesome. Well, whoever they extended their offer to after GARP did not accept the position, and I had not been excited about any of the offices I had interviewed with during GARP. I really was just like, I want South Carolina, but I don't really even know where I want to work at this point because I don't really feel a connection to any of these offices. They're not where I want to be. So I guess I'll just hold out and see what happens. So I want to say mid-March, the Career Center position opened back up. I jumped on that right away. And the same day I actually got a text from my GARP post saying, hey, so check your email, the Career Center position opened up, I think you'd be awesome, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay, cool, I'm going to apply right now. Well, an hour later I got a call from the person who was conducting the interviews to schedule. So scheduled my interview, did it the next week, so this is end of March type situation. They're like, okay, well, I'll tell you by the end of the week. End of the week rolls around, nothing happens. Early April rolls around, still nothing happens. Get a call one day randomly, as I was interviewing with other offices too, so I was like, I don't know who this is. So get a call from the woman from the Career Center, and she's like, oh, hey, sorry, I've been on vacation, but we want to offer you the position. And in my head, I'm like, seriously, you told me you would tell me this 2 weeks ago. You couldn't have made one 3-minute phone call before your vacation. But, so I did not accept the position on the spot, you know, gotta keep them waiting a little bit, gotta put a little drama in the situation, so ended up calling her back the next day, I believe, and at that point removed myself from the interview pools of the other positions I was potentially up for. So ended up with my dream position, did not realize at the time, or did not realize before going to GARP that that was what I wanted, but I absolutely love my office now, and I actually see myself working in career services in the future, and I would never have had that opportunity had I remained as closed off as I had been in the beginning of the GARP process.
All right, I want to start this with a shout out to Team Awesome at the front. That's my favorite. All right. I also think it's ironic that I'm the spa wellness chair and I'm the one eating cheesecake in front of the room. So yeah, props to that. All right, so I came to GARP last year and had a blast. Loved it. Came up, got to see all the different people, got to meet Jenny Bloom, and went to her house, went to her hangar, had a great time. I'm an introvert, so I was like sitting there at dinner, I was like, touching. A lot of touching. I was like, but I loved it nonetheless. And came through, first round interviews, had 4 interviews to start with. Thought they went pretty well, had one at the very end of the day, and I just drained. It's the end of the day, I'd already had a couple other interviews. It was with University 101, and I was just like, and I thought it was my worst interview, hands down. I was just like, there's no way I'm getting called back. And come through that night, I get to find out I got a second round interview. Geeked out a little bit in the second round interview, so if you can show you're really passionate about what they do, show it. Mine was about a 600-page binder they had, and I was just like, I really want to read that. And they're like, well, you could buy it for $80, or you could become a GA here. And I was like, well, let's just cut out the middleman and make the offer now. So, there's that. You can sell the bargain. You can do it right then and there. So, comes Thursday around, I get this, I remember pretty specifically where I was. I was in a study lounge on campus at Mason, and got this text message, so I can check my phone, thinking it's one of my fraternity brothers to see it if I want to grab lunch, and it's a picture, and I was like, what is this? And it's a house, and I was like, what is this? And I'm looking at the picture, and then there's a text associated with it, and it just says, thought you might like to see where you could be working on a nice day. Because the second round of interviews for GARP last year, it was raining. And it was a picture of the 101 house, because we're not in an office building, we're in an actual house like right across the street here. And I was like trying to figure it out. A friend of mine is currently a second year, so she was the first year last year and worked in the building right next door to it. And I was thinking, okay, maybe she got the friend to text me a number and like figuring it out. I'm trying to find out who it is. And about 2 minutes later, I get a phone call from Dan Friedman, the director of University 101. And he's like, hey, I'd like to extend you an offer. We thought you were super and we'd love to have you. And me being the idiot that I was like, hey, I just want to think of a little bit longer about the offer. Which in hindsight, I'm realizing, I was like, ugh. But I just thought about it, and what my issue was I had an offer from another school, and I had a full ride there as far as expenses goes. And I won't lie and say finances didn't play a role into it. And I was sitting there thinking about it, and Dan was fantastic and said, had some time to think about it. I called Carly because I knew she was going to be the second-year GA with me, and talked a little bit more about what she thought about the office, and she'd already been here. And later that night, I was talking to my dad, who's an accountant. I was talking to him about this, that, and the other, and about finances and this, that, and what have you. And about halfway through the discussion, he's like, now, Alex, I just want to stop you for a second, but I don't know if you've noticed this, but a lot of your questions aren't necessarily, can I afford it? It's, how can I make this possible? And I kind of stopped for a second, and I realized it, and I was like, now that I think about it, I really do think this was the place for me. So the next day, I thought about it a little more, talked to Carly again, talked to my spuddy, or who was my GARP host at the time, but is now my spuddy, and just kind of thought more about it. And at the end of the day, I gave a phone call to Dan. Well, I sent him an email. This is what happened was I sent him an email because I couldn't reach him in the office. And what I found out was it was their first year experience conference, so they were away from the office. So I sent him an email, I just figured I'd hear back on Monday. And then come to find out, I get a phone call about 5 minutes later, and it's Dan. And it's on his cell phone, and he's just like, yeah, just, I saw your email, what's up, what can I do to help you out, what questions do you have? And I was like, well, I just wanted to say, hey, I accept your offer, I want to come work with you. And then he turns for a second, and I hear this sound, it's like a splashing noise. Come find out they're all laying out at the pool. Yeah. So the whole office is there, and he's like, yeah, we're just kind of hanging out at the pool. One sec, let me tell everyone. And so I hear like a muffled noise, and all of a sudden I hear, congratulations! From like 5 different people yelling through the phone. And that was my first interaction with my new family here in the state.
Little heartbreak, little humor.
So I had a slightly different experience in that I didn't come to GARP. I had applied to a couple different graduate schools. I was still deciding whether or not I wanted to be, if I wanted to go to graduate school or whether I wanted to be a consultant for my sorority at the time. So there's already a little bit of indecision there. And I'm not going to lie to you, I did experience a lot of rejection along the way, but that happens. So I knew that I wanted to come to the University of South Carolina. I had done a tour here, even though I wasn't able to come to GARP that weekend, but I came and I visited the campus and I met with some people, learned more about the program, and I knew this is where I wanted to be. But having not come to GARP, I didn't realize necessarily what my options were, and that if I wanted to be there, there was a way to make that happen. So at that point, I was University of South Carolina, and everybody that's involved with HESA was great in keeping me super informed in what was going on. They reached out to me right away, and they were like, we know you weren't able to make it to GARP. Can everybody hear me? Okay, I feel like I'm quiet. They were like, no, you weren't able to come to GARP. That's okay. There's going to be a second round of interviews. We're going to be sending out any offers that, offices, as offers become available, we'll send that information out to you. Here's everything you need to know. Here's at that point I had already accepted my offer to the University of South Carolina, and they gave me information about the university and just were super helpful in letting me know what I was getting myself into. But in the back of my head, I still kind of had that nagging, like, oh, like Kenzie had mentioned earlier, are these going to be the bottom of the barrel, kind of leftover assistantships that nobody really wanted, or whatever. And so I was kind of nervous about that. But then once I started getting the offer, or not the offers, but started getting the information about offices that were going to be offering GAs, I was super excited because there was, I would have to say at least 7 or 8 that I was legitimately interested in. So I just started applying for them as they were rolling in. I ended up doing 2 interviews, and then one of them being with my current GA, which is the Office of Student Government, and it sounded really interesting, and I was like, I like the things that they're doing, but I was like, I don't have any student government experience, I don't know squat about legislature, or like any of that kind of stuff, like legislation. I was like, I just don't think that they're gonna hire me, like there's just no way.